The sound of glass shattering pierced the silence as Captain Michael Reynolds dropped the photo frame. His daughter Lily's smile, frozen behind the cracked glass, stared back at him. After 3 years in Afghanistan, she had become a stranger. As he knelt to gather the broken pieces, a gentle knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. His elderly neighbor Mrs. Wilson stood there, tears in her eyes as she whispered words that would change everything. "You don't have to face this alone." Michael stood in the driveway of what was supposed to be home, duffel bag weighing heavily on his shoulder. The modest house on Oakwood Street looked exactly as he'd left it, yet somehow different, like returning to a familiar painting where the colors had subtly shifted. His wife Claire had died suddenly from an aneurysm while he was deployed. His mother had stepped into care for 8-year-old Lily, but now he was honorably discharged and permanently home. The responsibility of single fatherhood loomed larger than any battlefield he'd faced. The door creaked open to reveal a house that smelled of disuse despite his mother's efforts. She had brought Lily back yesterday, giving them space for this reunion. Michael had insisted he could handle the transition alone. "Dad?" The small voice came from upstairs. Lily stood at the top of the staircase in blue pajamas, her blonde hair, Claire's hair, pulled into a messy ponytail. Her eyes held a mixture of recognition and uncertainty. "Hey, sweetheart," he managed, his voice rough. When was the last time he'd spoken to someone outside his unit? Lily descended slowly, stopping 3 steps from the bottom. "Grandma said you weren't going back to the army." "That's right. I'm home for good now." She nodded solemnly. "I'm in 3rd grade now. I can read chapter books." "That's wonderful," Michael said, unsure whether to approach her. "I'd love to hear you read sometime." "Maybe." She moved past him toward the kitchen. "I already had breakfast. Grandma made waffles before she left." Michael followed, noting how confidently Lily navigated the house while he felt like an intruder. That was nice of her. "She puts blueberries in them now. I don't like strawberries anymore." Another change he'd missed. Another detail about his daughter he didn't know. The kitchen showed signs of his mother's presence, new appliances, refrigerator magnets holding Lily's artwork. He opened the fridge to find it stocked with labeled meals and her favorite snacks. "Your grandma thought of everything," he said, attempting a smile. Lily shrugged, climbing onto a stool. "She said you might be tired from your trip." Tired didn't begin to cover it. Exhausted. Hollowed out. Terrified of failing this small person who had grown into someone he barely knew. "I am a little," he admitted. "But I'm happy to be home with you." Lily studied him with Claire's eyes, perceptive, measuring. "Are you staying in your room or the guest room?" The question caught him off guard. "My room. Why would I stay in the guest room?" "Grandma stays there. But sometimes when she's sad about Mom, she sleeps in your room instead." Michael felt something crack inside his chest. "I'll be in my room, Lily. That's where I belong." She nodded again, that same serious nod that seemed too old for her young face. "I have school tomorrow. Grandma already packed my lunch." "Good. That's good." He ran a hand through his short hair. "Maybe tomorrow I can pick you up. We could get ice cream or something. I have violin lessons after school on Mondays." Another new development. "Violin? When did you start that?" "Last year. Mrs. Wilson from next door drives me there. She says I'm getting really good." Michael carried his duffel upstairs to the master bedroom. Claire's presence lingered despite his mother's attempts to make it neutral. The bedspread was new, but the photos on the dresser remained untouched. Their wedding day, Lily's birth, the three of them at Disneyland when Lily was 5. He picked up the Disneyland photo. Lily wearing Mickey ears, Claire laughing, his arm around them both. He'd been home on leave then, a brief reprieve before heading back overseas. Claire had been alive. Their world intact. His hands began to shake. The frame slipped, hitting the edge of the dresser before shattering on the floor. "Damn it," he muttered, kneeling to gather the broken glass. A shard sliced his finger, and he watched blood well up from the cut. Physical pain was straightforward, unlike the complicated ache of returning to a life that had continued without him. A soft knock at the front door startled him. Through the peephole, he saw an elderly woman with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, holding what appeared to be a casserole dish. He opened the door, trying to place her. "You must be Michael," the woman said, her voice warm. "I'm Eleanor Wilson from next door. I hope I'm not intruding." "No, not at all," he said automatically, military courtesy kicking in. "Please, come in." Mrs. Wilson stepped inside, her keen eyes taking in the sparse entryway. "I brought lasagna. No one wants to cook their first day home." "That's very kind of you." Michael accepted the dish, its warmth seeping through the oven mitt still wrapped around it. "Your mother mentioned you'd be returning today. She's been wonderful with Lily, but that child has missed her father something fierce." Michael set the lasagna on the entryway table, unsure how to respond. Had Lily missed him? She seemed more wary than anything else. "Lily's in the living room," he said instead. "Would you like to say hello?" "Oh, we're well acquainted," Mrs. Wilson said with a smile. "I drive her to violin lessons, and she helps me garden on weekends. She has quite the green thumb." Another piece of his daughter's life he knew nothing about. Mrs. Wilson must have read something in his expression because her smile softened. "It's not easy, coming home. My Robert had the same look when he returned from Vietnam. Like he'd stepped into someone else's life." "Did he adjust?" Michael asked, the question escaping before he could stop it. "Eventually." She reached out, her weathered hand resting briefly on his arm. "But not alone. That was his mistake at first, thinking he had to carry it all by himself." From the living room came the sound of cartoons, Lily's small form visible on the couch. Mrs. Wilson leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You don't have to face this alone. None of us do. This neighborhood, we look after our own." Claire knew that. It's why she loved this house. Michael felt his throat tighten. Claire had fallen in love with the house immediately, insisting it was where they were meant to raise their family. He'd been deployed 3 months after they moved in. "I don't know how to be what Lily needs," he admitted, the words barely audible. Mrs. Wilson's eyes, faded blue but sharp with wisdom, held his. "You already are what she needs, her father. The rest is just details you'll figure out together." She patted his arm again. "The lasagna needs 15 minutes at 350. And Michael? My door is always open. For both of you." After she left, Michael stood in the entryway for a long moment, then carried the lasagna to the kitchen, set the oven to preheat, and walked into the living room. "Lily," he said softly. "How would you feel about having lasagna for lunch? Our neighbor Mrs. Wilson brought it over." Lily looked up from her show. "Mrs. Wilson makes the best lasagna. She puts extra cheese on top because she knows I like it that way. Michael sat down on the opposite end of the couch. She seems nice. She is. She lets me pick flowers from her garden for Mom's picture. Michael felt his heart constrict. You put flowers by Mom's picture? Lily nodded. Every Sunday. Grandma says it's important to remember her. Your grandma's right. Michael hesitated, then added, maybe next Sunday we could pick flowers together? Lily considered this, her small face serious. Okay. But you have to let me show you which ones Mom would like best. I'd like that very much. A tiny smile, the first he'd seen, flickered across Lily's face before she turned back to her cartoon. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. The first week passed in a blur of awkward routines and careful conversations. Michael learned Lily's schedule: school from 8:30 to 3:15, violin on Mondays, art club on Wednesdays, dinner at 6 sharp because she got hangry otherwise. He discovered she now preferred her sandwiches cut into triangles instead of squares, that she slept with a nightlight, that she had developed an encyclopedic knowledge of butterflies during his absence. He also learned that she still had nightmares, though she tried to hide them. The first time he heard her crying, he'd rushed to her room to find her curled into a tight ball, clutching a cardigan he recognized as Claire's. Mom used to hold me when I had bad dreams, she'd whispered when he sat cautiously on the edge of her bed. Would it help if I held you? He'd asked, terrified of overstepping. Lily had considered this with that serious expression that broke his heart a little each time. Then she'd nodded and scooted over, allowing him to lie beside her, his arm draped carefully over her small form. You smell different than Mom, she'd murmured, already drifting back to sleep. But it's okay. Not a ringing endorsement, but progress nonetheless. By the second week, Michael had established a tenuous routine. He drove Lily to school, used the daytime hours to search for civilian jobs and attend his VA counseling sessions, then picked her up and navigated the complex world of third-grade homework, dinner preparation, and bedtime rituals. It was during one of these evenings, as he struggled to help Lily with a math worksheet, that the doorbell rang. That's probably the Parkers, Lily said without looking up from her problems. They come over on Thursdays. Michael opened the door to find not only Mrs. Wilson but also a middle-aged couple he didn't recognize. Hope we're not interrupting, Mrs. Wilson said cheerfully. This is Tom and Sarah Parker from across the street. They brought dinner. Tom Parker held up a large paper bag that smelled tantalizingly of spices. My famous chili. Lily's favorite. Lily has mentioned you, Michael said, stepping back to let them in. Please, come in. We've been taking turns bringing meals on Thursdays since your mother went back to Florida, Sarah explained as they moved toward the kitchen. It started when Claire got sick, and we just kept it going. Michael felt a surge of gratitude mixed with shame. These people had been supporting his family while he was away, stepping in where he couldn't. I don't know what to say, he admitted as Sarah efficiently unpacked containers of food. Thank you seems inadequate. No thanks needed, Tom said, clapping him on the shoulder. That's what neighbors do. Lily appeared in the doorway, her face lighting up at the sight of the Parkers. Did you bring cornbread too? Of course we did, sweetheart, Sarah said, opening a container to reveal golden squares. And I remembered the honey butter. As they ate around the kitchen table, Michael watched in amazement as Lily chatted animatedly with their neighbors, more talkative than she'd been with him all week. She told Mrs. Wilson about the butterfly they'd spotted in the backyard, asked Tom about his dog, and proudly showed Sarah her completed math homework. Lily has quite the community fan club, Mrs. Wilson said quietly to Michael as the Parkers helped Lily serve ice cream for dessert. Claire made sure of that before she passed. She wanted Lily surrounded by people who cared. I didn't know, Michael said, watching his daughter laugh at something Tom said. I thought it was just my mother taking care of things while I was gone. Oh, Patricia did the heavy lifting, no doubt. But we all pitched in. Carpools, after-school playdates, holiday gatherings. Mrs. Wilson's eyes crinkled with her smile. Lily's been raised by a village, as they say. After dinner, Tom insisted on helping with the dishes while Sarah and Mrs. Wilson persuaded Lily to show them her latest art project from school. Michael found himself alone in the kitchen with Tom, awkwardly drying plates as the other man washed them. I was in the service too, Tom said casually, handing Michael a clean glass. Marines. 2 tours in Iraq. Michael looked at him with new understanding. How long did it take to feel normal again? Tom considered this, his hands continuing their methodical work in the soapy water. Depends on what you mean by normal. If you're asking when I stopped feeling like an alien in my own home, about 6 months. If you're asking when the nightmares stopped, they haven't, not completely. But they're rare now. And your family? How did they adjust? It was hard on Sarah. Harder on our son, who was about Lily's age when I came back the last time. Tom rinsed the final plate and handed it over. Kids are resilient, but they need consistency. And they need to know it's okay for things to be different, that different doesn't mean worse. Michael dried the plate slowly. Lily barely knows me anymore. She knows you, Tom corrected gently. She just needs to learn to trust that you're staying this time. From the living room came the sound of Lily's laughter, bright and uninhibited in a way Michael hadn't heard since his return. We have a neighborhood barbecue every other Saturday in the community park, Tom said, drying his hands on a towel. Nothing fancy, just families getting together, kids playing. You should bring Lily tomorrow. I don't know if we're ready for that, Michael hedged. Ready or not, community helps, Tom said simply. Isolation doesn't. After their neighbors left, Michael sat with Lily on the couch, helping her organize her backpack for the next day. You like the Parkers, he observed as she carefully placed her homework folder in the front pocket. Mr. Parker tells funny stories, and Mrs. Parker taught me how to make friendship bracelets. Lily zipped her backpack and looked up at him. They said there's a barbecue tomorrow. Can we go? Michael hesitated. The thought of making small talk with strangers while managing Lily in a public setting made his palms sweat. But the hopeful look on his daughter's face decided him. Sure, if you want to. I do. She fidgeted with the zipper pull on her backpack. Mom used to take me. We'd bring her potato salad. We could make potato salad, Michael offered cautiously. If you remember how she made it. Lily's eyes widened. You want to make Mom's potato salad? I'd like to try. With your help. For a moment, Lily just stared at him. Then she launched herself across the couch and into his arms, the first hug she'd initiated since his return. I remember exactly how she made it, she whispered against his chest. The barbecue was both easier and harder than Michael had anticipated. Easier because the neighbors welcomed them warmly, already familiar with Lily and genuinely interested in getting to know him. Harder because everywhere he looked, he saw happy families, complete families, and the absence of Claire felt like a physical weight. It gets better, a voice said beside him as he watched Lily playing tag with a group of children. He turned to find Tom Parker holding out a beer. The feeling that something's missing. It never goes away completely, but it gets less crushing. Michael accepted the beer with a nod of thanks. How did you know what I was thinking? Because I've been where you are. Different circumstances, same feeling. Tom took a sip from his own bottle. My first wife died when our son was 7. Cancer. I thought our world had ended. Michael hadn't known. I'm sorry. Tom shrugged. Life goes on, whether we want it to or not. The trick is learning to go with it instead of fighting against it. He nodded toward where Sarah was helping organize a 3-legged race. I met Sarah at a grief support group 2 years later. Wasn't looking for love, just trying to figure out how to be a single dad. Sometimes life surprises you. Across the park, Lily was laughing as Mrs. Wilson showed her how to throw a frisbee. Her face was flushed with excitement, her hair coming loose from its ponytail. For a moment, she looked so much like Claire that Michael's breath caught. Your daughter's going to be okay, Tom said, following his gaze. So are you. Just give.